Right on the initial verse, the kind worldly father calling on his child, the Buddha encourages with love and comfort. So this initial verse refers to how we should be practicing, and that is the, if you like, it is how we should emulate the Buddha in our practice. So great love is like a place for us to draw near, so we spoke with these loving words. So in our life, obviously, sometimes because of the arising of emotion, our words tend to resonate based on our inner emotion. And so what we need to do is, Magnus must often say, is that this great love is in a great loving heart that we should have, and the heart we should be drawing near to, because it's from here that we can grow our heart. So unable to bear our minds being scattered, it exhorts us to forever practice the Dharma or Samadhi. The Dharma Samadhi, obviously, here we're cultivating all those virtues, and the virtues, from these virtues arising from here, is from the virtues of the great loving heart. But even for these virtues, the great loving heart, what constitutes the virtues of the great loving heart? So we'll talk a little bit later. So this, and here, from this great love, then we can tame our minds. Right? And tame our minds, because when the great love is there, you no longer be desirous and wanting a lot of things, or wanting things to be done your way, and then you can abide in samadhi, so you can see the flow of this love taming the mind. He then teaches and admonishes us to practice all teachings of the right path, admonishing us not to deviate. So the Buddha inherencies all beings as his only son, not just for humans, but also for other beings. And obviously, when Buddha gave his teachings, obviously there were other invisible beings who were listening. Not only that, there's one time that the Buddha went to the forest, and the monkey and elephant came to give their offerings as well. And how he also tamed the elephant that was set up by Devadatta to attack him. So sadly, insentient beings have scattered minds. So he exalts and guides us, so through the door of exaltation, to cultivate on the virtues. He also patiently guides us, exalting and admonishing us to practice diligently, so that we do not deviate. And that is for us to undertake the precepts. So we have samadhi and wisdom, we will not be confused or distracted. So in here, you can engage in the follow study, not to deviate by upholding the precepts, state of samadhi, so that our mind no longer get afflicted by our emotion. And obviously from there, we can grow in wisdom learning. So when we listen to the Dharma, we have to be mindful to prevent ignorance from contaminating our minds. And we can only do that if we are calm. So if we listen to the Dharma, or listening to anybody for that matter, often sometimes our mind will tend to listen to our own thoughts. And so when we listen to our own thoughts, what we gather becomes contaminated because of our scattered minds. So we need to adhere to the right Dharma and the right understanding. So this have the right Dharma, so that we have the right understanding, and then we can cultivate the Noble Eightfold Path. And but to do this, that's why when we listen, we need and grow in wisdom, we need to be in samadhi. Because if the mind is not in stillness and we're listening, we're actually listening with a contaminated mind. And so, and then the parable says, do not go elsewhere. And do not go elsewhere meaning do not deviate. So referring to the 4 bases of feeling powers, that's what it says in this morning's teaching. So, and that's why I often take this the four bases of willing powers as a strict and disciplined practice. A strict and disciplined practice can only come about when you uphold your vows and your precepts of your practice. So with the contemplation of fulfilling powers, then we can give right to our flawless studies because we then do not deviate. So constant practice of samadhi and wisdom then allows us to cut off or diluted karma, which comes from the contaminated mind or the scattered mind. So the three flawed studies of precepts, samadhi, and wisdom are the spiritual nourishment of our wisdom life by one, upholding the precept so that we do not deviate. Samadhi, so that our mind do not get scattered or contaminated by our unwholesome thoughts. And here we need to cultivate the four right efforts. And obviously then we can then grow in wisdom learning by observing that with a mind that is in stillness. So the lessons learned for hearers, there are four stages of enlightenment, as the master said. So these stages reflect our understanding from simple to profound. From a stage of learning, we go to the stage beyond learning. So the four stages of attainment for the hearers will be the Sotapanna, Sankirtagami, Anagami, and then Arahathood, which are four stages of enlightenment, depending on the stages of removing the dust of afflictions. Now, that ultimately the stage of learning, we attain the stage beyond learning. This will be at the end of the five paths. And this is just path of no more learning. And here you have learned everything that you need to know. So the Buddha is, I would say the stage beyond learning is already at the Bodhisattva level. This Arahathood level or the hearer's level, this will be at the stage of Bodhisattvahood. So the Buddha is beyond the stage of learning, obviously, because he's gone beyond the 10th ground. So his enlightened mind is already one with the universe. This is being without self. So being without self, that one is totally selfless. And here we have these six harmonies. So these six harmonies are what to practice in the Sangha community, whether it is monastic or lay practitioners. So if we look at this in the harmony of action, speech, intention, precepts, views, and sharing, then we should also practice, even for us, in the family of practitioners. Obviously, we are in a family of practitioners, so therefore we also adopt this. So earlier on, I mentioned about cultivating this great loving heart. So what are the virtues of cultivating this great loving heart? So to have this great loving heart, the fundamental thing for what constitutes great loving heart is to be harmonious. And unless one is harmonious, the heart will always have afflictions of how things should be done in certain ways. So that's when we learn to give way between harmony and cultivate loving heart. But before that harmony can come about, we need to be able to renounce our afflictions, and that is the one that undertake the precepts. Before that, we need to then purify our thoughts, words, and deeds. And before we purify, we need to get into a strict practice. So we need to practice, purify, renounce, harmonize. Then only the great loving heart can arise. So in contemplation, guide with inner love of all sin for all sentient beings. And that's what we should have, and I resonate with the initial verse. So you must not be discriminative when you guide others. And that's what the Buddha emulate, that we should emulate the Buddha, that you regard everyone as your only child. So inner love knows no boundaries. How does that arise? Because when the inner love does not have any boundaries, you do not discriminate. So it unites your heart with others, even the downtrodden and the forgotten ones. So the inner love is cultivated from the impartial faith that we uphold, and which we spoke about this some weeks ago. And the impartial faith is the absolute faith that you have grounded in the practice. And here, and this inner love that one have to grow must have to arise from one who has grown in the spiritual consciousness and one whose character has become peaceful. So of harmonizing with all through the growth in self-transformation. And so in this self-transformation, one actually moves away from worldly matters to spirituality. And that can only arise. One has grown in the consciousness away from the mundane consciousness. So from a worldly being to a spiritual being. So on relationship, this is the disturbance in a relationship. And this is the one, the disturbance in a relationship that one would disrupt the harmony in a relationship. And whether it's for us in a spiritual family or even in a home family or with your friends. So we need to be very mindful of this. So there's never a bad moment. A moment is regarded as bad when not well received. So in our life when it comes to us, when regarded as a painful moment, then become a bad moment. But if it's a moment that arises and is actually a teaching, then it will not be regarded as bad. So when we do not accept the teaching that comes to us, then it is not well received and become a bad moment. So therefore, a disturbing matter that manifests and thrown at you will become disturbing to you when you accept that disturbance. But instead of accepting that disturbance, you accept it as a learning or as a teaching, then you reframe your thoughts. So however, if you do not, you continue in the stillness of the moment, nothing changes. In other words, however, if you do not accept that as a disturbance, then you'll be in stillness of the moment. Then nothing changed. And that's what Master was trying to tell us, to practice in samadhi. So be never hurting and troublesome in your way, because if you get disturbed, you begin to hurt other people with our words or with our anger and become troublesome in our ways. So be harmonious with all by making the moments with them flawless. And that's how we can grow this great loving heart. Okay, Kanan, thank you.
Kanan so much to our brother Yun Kyung